love it. I love it. I have a story that's very similar to yours. But let's talk about how do you include light, because you mentioned that you saw Jack Krause and Joe Rogan and Rick Rubin on that podcast, on that episode. How do you include it? Like what time of the day? If someone's just getting into it, they're new to it. What does that look like? Because we've always been taught that the sun, well, since the 90s, because they said something about the ozone. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
So since the 90s, we've been taught stay away from the sun, SPF. It's fear mongering, but they didn't teach us why or how or what to do with it when we encounter it. Could you at least fill us in on that? This podcast is sponsored by Kaptainplantit.com. At Kaptainplantit.com, we have herbal supplements designed to address the most common health issues. Our flagship product is a superfood protein, where it not only has protein, but it has high organic minerals from sources like sea moss, chaga, cordyceps, and lion's mane to actually make you healthy. Go over to Kaptainplantit.com, type in summer 24 to get 20% off. Back to the show.
There's also no nuance around who is this messaging for? Because a lot of that messaging, if I may say so, is like white man's propaganda. So for anybody who's not watching, I'm mixed. My dad's side of the family is black. My mom's side is Scandinavian. And I grew up raised by the white side of my family, and I was raised in a very Caucasian area, very rural white America, like rural part of New Jersey. And so I always kind of shied away, I would say, maybe from the black side of me, because I didn't fit in that way. So one of the biggest things about this embracing of the sun and light is really me embracing my heritage in a lot of ways and embracing melanin. And we need to talk about the importance of melanin and how powerful it is. And once you begin to realize that, it becomes really clear in some ways, if you want to put your tinfoil hat on, why people would or systems would try to prevent you from embracing this side of your biology, of our biology. So basically, what I'd like to say is that there's a lot of nuance around sun exposure. For people who have darker skin, we need more sunlight because melanin absorbs all wavelengths of light. And so what that means is, if we're just talking about, let's say, vitamin D, which is a well-known, basically biomarker of sun exposure habits, it's not something to be supplemented. All of the clinical trials showing vitamin D supplementation outcomes are basically no benefits to anything outside of reducing rickets or preventing rickets, which is very severe deficiency. Outside of that, we're really getting the benefits of vitamin D via sunlight production of vitamin D, which is essentially serving as a biomarker of UV light exposure, because that UVB light in particular is required to convert that pre-vitamin D or the 7-dehydrocholesterol into pre-vitamin D, which can then go on to be further activated in the kidneys and the liver. But that 25-hydroxyvitamin D form that's tested in blood tests is really serving as this indicator, this proxy for how much time you're spending outside. And when you're outside in the sun and nature, you're also getting, more fresh air, more biodiversity from natural environments. You're also producing a whole host of other types of molecules in response to the sun. So just UVB light in particular, we also produce this prohormone called pro-opiomelanocortin, or POMC, that's cleaved into 10 distinct hormonal products, 3 of which are alpha, beta, and gamma endorphins, which are these endogenous opioid molecules that reduce anxiety, reduce depression, improve critical thinking, improve learning and memory, modulate the immune system. Also, we have alpha, beta, and gamma MSH, or melanocyte-stimulating hormone, which are these hormones that are required to stimulate the melanocytes to make new melanin. So that's how you get a tan in response to the sun. But in addition to that, those melanocyte-stimulating hormones are also stimulating melanin production in deeper parts of the body too, because there's actually melanin throughout our system, especially at our sensory borders. So our skin, our taste buds, our nasal mucosa, the inner ear. There's melanin deep in the brain as well. So all of these melanin depots are really important for reasons that we can kind of unpack with regards to melanin biology and how that's benefiting us. But those melanocyte-stimulating hormones, in addition to those benefits for melanin production, are also directly acting on the hypothalamus to decrease appetite and increase energy expenditure. So in effect, they're helping you to achieve or maintain healthy body composition. And then if you think about how deficient we are as a society in UV light, it becomes really obvious why, diabetes is an issue, weight management is an issue, obesity, and just overconsumption of food. Because if you're constantly, depriving yourself of UV light, you're not getting those endorphins that's giving you a natural dopamine high that's letting you cruise at altitude. But instead, now you're looking for quick hits of dopamine in your everyday life, whether it's junk food or social media or pornography or whatever the addictions, drugs, alcohol, like all of these addictions are signs that you're not filling your own cup naturally through that sun exposure. And so that's something that I focus a lot on. And if you have darker skin, that means you need more UV light in order to actually synthesize POMC and vitamin D, because there's so much melanin there that's basically sequestering that light and not allowing it to facilitate the biochemical response. And that should make a lot of sense, because dark skin is associated with equatorial high UV regions. And that means that the darker your skin is, the more your system is evolved to receive high quality, high UV index sun, basically year round, versus individuals who come from more northern regions. There's, better quality sun during the summer, but then very poor quality sun in the wintertime. And that means their skin basically needs to be lighter in order to harness the sun during the on season so that they can support their systems in the off season in the wintertime, in addition to adding cold in, which we can probably talk about cold as well, as this, it's kind of a supplement to sun in the absence of sun, which also should make sense, because in the wintertime when it's cold, there's poor quality sun, but the ability to get cold actually harnesses your own body's ability to make its own light inside in the mitochondria, in particular infrared and UV biophotons. So essentially, what I'm trying to say is that UV light is an essential nutrient. You need more of it the darker your skin is. But in addition to that, we're getting so much more from the sun than just UV light. We're also getting red and infrared light, which can directly penetrate into your body, stimulate your mitochondria to make more energy and more mitochondrial water that helps to hydrate your tissues, helps to prevent against injuries, helps to maintain metabolism. And so just, if we're thinking about red infrared light, we're getting UV light as well. We're also getting blue light, which comes from the sun. 50% of midday sun is red infrared light, about 25% blue light, and less than 10% UV light. That blue light is a really important signal to our systems that it's basically the middle of the day. And that blue light is really the primary timekeeper for our circadian clocks. And so if we're exposed to blue light at inappropriate times of day, let's say it's, past sundown, nighttime, you throw on all the LED or fluorescent lights inside, you're sitting on your devices, your TV, computer, phone, etc., you're blasting yourself with blue light and telling your body that it's the middle of the day. So that means that your internal clocks are completely out of whack with your environment. And what that means is that essentially if your body is constantly thinking it's the middle of the day when it's actually nighttime, you're never getting into that rest and recovery and that mode of regeneration that's supposed to happen at nighttime when you're sleepy. And also, melatonin production is suppressed by blue light. So in order to get that melatonin released in the brain to help you get sleepy and stay asleep and get good quality sleep, you need to remove blue light from your nighttime environment. And we're basically doing all the opposite things that we should as a species in order to be healthy. We're telling people to stay inside out of the sun. If you go outside, put on sunblock, wear sunglasses, block the sun out as much as possible. And then when you go inside, turn on all your energy efficient light bulbs. They're energy efficient, so that means they must be good. Meanwhile, they're depriving our systems of the essential nutrients in the form of UV light and red and infrared light that our bodies actually need to function well. So we're kind of doing everything wrong, but the best part about this is the solutions are really easy and they're for the most part free. So I spend most of my day outside back here on this patio. A lot of times I'm under shade, so I'm getting indirect light, but I'll get targeted sun exposure every day, usually between an hour and a half, depending on the season. And that, you can track your vitamin D levels and use an app like D-Minder to help gamify it and just, make sure that you're maintaining your vitamin D levels between 60 and 80 nanograms per milliliter. That's a good way to track if you're getting optimal sun for your skin type and your body. And so that's what I do. I spend most of my day outside. If I'm going to watch, something on when I was streaming the Olympics, I was largely watching it from my laptop out here so I could get natural light into my eyes. I'm not blasting myself with artificial light in the absence of sunlight. So simply just moving whatever you're going to do inside, outside can make a whole world of difference when it comes to your health.